actually use your cell phone and text that 22333 number and just send them my name and number. That's my username. And it'll answer, or it'll show your answers up here just like the map did. It'll start to pull in. So this is kind of a way for me to just collect, kind of hear what everybody has. You'll notice that it puts spaces, become new words. So when I wrote the word video camera, it separated them into camera and video. And then the more somebody writes something, the bigger the text gets. So if we have a lot of people using iPads or a lot of people using laptops, that will get bigger as they type them in. So I just wanted to show 2 slides on the way Poll Everywhere works. And again, that would just be the presenter has it, and then everyone else can just use whatever device they have. So the map worked good. Has everyone, it should have prompted and went right to the next question when I advanced the slide on you. So I haven't seen any populate in on the word cloud yet. Somebody wants to drop in the chat. Does that, oh, there we go. So we got software, now it's going. So you can see it's starting to pull in different things that people use. So we have PowerPoint. So whoever wrote PowerPoint, Poll Everywhere, you can use it right within a PowerPoint. It has an install that makes it work. So you set up that free account. Good, we have multiple PowerPoints, games, cameras, software. And these are just 2 examples of what Poll Everywhere can do. It does quiz questions. It has a whole bunch of choices. I just picked 2 of them that I wanted to utilize today. So this is just 2 examples of what it can do. Any questions about that as our answers start to populate in before I move on? Okay. All right, we will jump on to the next slide. So one tool that we have used within the department is called Plickers. And we started to utilize it when we were in situations where we only had 1 device. So the way it works is it's an app you can download on Apple or Chrome products, so iOS or Android. But the way it works is I made a short video to kind of show you. It just utilizes the camera. So on the 1 device, it uses the camera within the Plickers app, and you can ask multiple choice questions, and they just hold up their paper clicker or Plicker, and they give their answers. So this is just an example of the way it works. It just, you move the camera around and it starts to pull in all the different answers, and it has really good range. So in the classroom, it'll pick up people far away too. And or if they change their answers, every time you go over it, it checks and makes sure. And then it pulls in all their answers. I only asked a yes or no question, but you can ask 4 questions. And depending on what they answer, if they want to say A, they just hold the Plicker card so that A is towards the top. So right above the little weird looking QR type thing, it'll say a letter. So you can't really see it in my video, but it'll say a letter so they know which way to hold it to answer the answer that they want. The cards are free to print off. They do 63 different cards. You see how in the video it tells you the card number that answered. If you wanted to always have someone be card 1, or you wanted to assign classes, you can do those things. We usually use it as just a quick way to pull and find out answers from the audience and from our participants. So this one's Plickers. That's the only one I'm going to show that's device specific, was just Plickers. So these 4 sites are all high resolution picture sites. So a little bit of background on me is I create all our online trainings. So I do a lot of presentations and things that get put on our learning management system for people to take. And so I use these 4 sites a lot in presentations and PowerPoints to find pictures of things I need. And the reason I use them is because they're high resolution pictures. So no matter how big I blow them up, it doesn't get grainy or pixelated, or you can't tell what it is. And because it's sometimes hard to find the exact picture of what I'm looking for. So I might use a picture incredibly zoomed in to capture just a chain link fence. So the goat probably doesn't make sense in the presentation, but the chain link fence was the picture I was looking for. So with those high resolution, I can really, really zoom in on what part I want to display. And those 4 sites are all free to use, free to download. You just sign up for an account and you can download and use their pictures. So I use pictures a lot when I teach in PowerPoints as well as online. So another tool we tap into a lot is video. So here I have a couple of our PPCT instructors just showing a takedown. And the nice thing about video is they can rewatch it, they can replay it. We can do things like slow motion, so they can really slow it down and see the video take place. We can put it on loop, so it just plays over and over again. But it gives our participants the ability to watch these things over and over again until they feel comfortable with it. It doesn't replace the actual hands-on doing things, but it gives them the ability to watch it as many times as they need to when those instructors aren't there. And so we've used video on a lot of things, and most of the time we have a video camera somewhere within the facility that we can go use. We've also recorded some of the videos. We've also used video just straight from iPhones or iPads or different phones that are in the facility, just to capture that footage. And then once we have that footage, then we can start to manipulate it even more. There's a lot of different video recorders and screen recorders out there. Your Mac and your PC computers all have built-in screen recorders, so I'll use those when I'm making tutorials on how to do things. But I think it's really good to be able to just watch and replay it as much as you need to. Even in North Dakota, we have some English second language learners. It sometimes surprises people, but we have people that don't speak English as their primary language. And that isn't just the residents that we have here, we employ people as well. And so we've started to utilize a lot of different screen recorders and audiobooks and different things like that. Your computers, again, have built-in audio recorders too, like your voice memos and things like that. If you don't like the one that's built in, Audacity is a free one that you can download. It's pretty simple to use to manipulate and to record sound and cut out the ums and all those different things that we do. Right as I said, I said one. The really nice thing about recording that audio is we have on all our online classes and all our different things that we do, it gives them the ability to listen to it be read to them too. I'm not the strongest reader, so I know I appreciate when I can listen to things as well as read it, or just listen to it and then do something. I'm more of a visual and hands-on learner, so having that option to listen to it being read to me has been really beneficial. I get to be the one that records a lot of audios, so people get to listen to me talk quite a bit within our DOCR. But these are some of the tools that I use to record audio. One of the other tools that we're fortunate to use within North Dakota is we use OneDrive. It's a cloud service. All our email accounts have the ability to share documents, so we can actually go in and collaborate with with each other on documents at the same time, much as like if you're a Google user, your Google Drive, you can share in Google Docs, things like that. We're able to collaborate and work on documents in the same time. It also gave us the ability, once we had iPads, to pull up any kind of handouts and things that they're going to talk about, rather than printing off a whole bunch of copies of this. We now can we can have them pull it right up on the iPads. We have, so I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago, we didn't have any iPads within like the education department or anywhere. And we slowly went through that process to get it approved to be able to even bring them in. And now we have them in our education department, as well as our training department, and different staff members throughout the facilities have iPads. And so having those in our training department gave us the ability to cut down on our paper and do some of these things. But it didn't just happen, like kind of referencing back to it's not one size fits all. It didn't just happen real quick. It was a slow process. Our iPads for the training department, we haven't even had them a year yet. We're not 1-to-1, but we're pretty close, depending on the size of people we hire, how big our hiring pool is. But just having this option to have some things digitally and then only have to print off a couple handouts really has cut down on some of that waste as well. And then having it digitally, they can also use screen recorders and things like that to have it read to them, or look up words that they're not sure what they mean. We also have used it for auditing. So we use a tool called SurveyMonkey, and we've built an auditing tool where you just pick your evaluator, the course you're going to evaluate automatically. It uses skip logic to pull in who the instructors are and what their performance objectives are, and they can go through and check and see all the things they observed, and then they go through and fill it out and give that instructor feedback. We just started using this. We don't have a lot of data built up, but the nice thing about this and what we tell people is we want to have good, honest feedback. You know, it should be meaningful. It should tell us something we can improve on. It should tell us the things we did well. We want it to be specific, not just, hey, I like you or whatever. We want it to be specific to how you can get better, because there's always things we can do to improve. And so we go through, and this is the auditing tool we use on our instructors. We also have one built that everyone who goes through our CO Basic and training can actually go in and fill out on the instructor that they're listening to. So they get feedback from the students in the room as well as from their peers. And we just currently are collecting it all. It's all still anonymous, and we just want to have a good base, and then we're going to bring in the instructors and actually go through it and look at things that we could do to improve, because we realize we don't want just one person's opinion on things. We want to have a nice collection to go through and look at with them, so we can look for common threads and things that we see a lot of people like, or things that people think we really need to improve on each class. And so that tool is called SurveyMonkey, but there's other free survey tools out there. We use the National Institute of Corrections as another place to create online courses. So I create all the DOCR ones, but the National Institute of Corrections has over 300 classes that they put together and update. But we actually worked with them to create, if you see here, it actually has our mission statement. This is actually the North Dakota portal into their online classes. And what that does is they can log in with our North Dakota credentials. And then I, as an admin, can actually go into the NIC site. I can reset passwords if people forget them. And I can pull a report and see who all took courses within the National Institute of Corrections. And I can put them into our learning management system. So I usually, once a week, I go in there and pull the report and just see who all's been taking these classes. And it's been a really easy way for us to increase the courses that we offer for professional development for our staff. All right, so here's my next interactive thing that we're going to do. So Stuart's going to drop in a link called Join Quiz. And when you get there, it's going to ask you for a game code number. If you're on a phone, it might ask you to like log in or things like that. You can just skip those. You don't have to log in. No logins required. You're just going to click on that join, that link that Stuart just dropped in there for me. And then you're going to enter in this game code. And what this does, it's going to immediately start playing a game with you. I just did riddles. And so it's going to ask you 5 riddles that you're going to ask, and you earn more points. You get a higher score the faster you get them right. And if you get them wrong, you don't get any points. So it has a leaderboard to see who can answer the 5 riddles the fastest and correctly. So I just did riddles, but we've used this in the past for whether it be questions on policy, questions on transport, just different things. We take the material that they learned during that hour, and now they can each take this short little quiz, but it's more of like a trivia game that they can be competitive in to take. And I'm going to actually jump out of my presentation, and I'll show you what it looks like on the teacher side or on the instructor side of things, as everyone's hopefully having fun taking this quiz. The game pin's still right here, 219907. And if you're struggling to get in, like I said, you don't have to, if it asks you for some kind of login or something like that, you just hit skip, and then you should see an icon that says enter game pin, and you can enter it. So you can see we have 6 players right now playing. There's only 5 questions. So far it's 44% accuracy. If I scroll down, we can see who all's playing right now. So we have Mark, James, Trish, Jim, and Wade. If anyone else is, Rob, what type of device are you on that you're struggling with? It said you can't take the quiz. Are you on a, because the screens look a little different depending on the device you're on. So I'll show on my computer. You click on the link that Stuart sent out, and you should see right here, enter game code, and you just enter it in. If you're on a phone, I think there's a little icon in the center at the bottom of your screen that you can click on. It looks like the Q in quiz. Q-U-I-Z-Z. And the reason I chose quiz is because this one can be assigned like homework. So everybody could start the quiz right away and start playing around and trying to solve it. It doesn't turn off until 3 p.m. tomorrow. Can you go back to the last screen? Sure. So here is quiz.join. You should see enter game code, and then that's where you enter it in. can't remember the code off the top of my head. One of them pasted in there. All right, so Trish, it looks like was able to do it. Thank you, Stuart, for dropping the game code in there. I'll refresh. So we had 13 people take it. If you didn't get in, I'm sorry. We can play around and try more after. But you can see here's the results of everyone who played. So James was our winner. But I can also see James played it more than once because I allowed you to be able to play it. But it breaks down how everyone did, how quickly they answered, and what their score was. Obviously, we don't use the email to parent or anything like that. We use it just as a quick way to check for understanding. And it's just kind of a fun competitive thing we can do with our staff. One that we use a lot as well that's very similar to Quiz is Kahoot. And the way Kahoot works is now instead of you all seeing the questions on your devices that you are on, you actually see it up on the teacher's or the instructor's board, and then everybody else's device just looks like a bar trivia like ring-in device. So they only see the shapes that they have to answer, but we all play it together. And so that's when we use a lot in classes. It's pretty fun. The room gets pretty into it, but we use it a lot for different things. Same as Quiz, we do it with policy reviews, things like that, to kind of get that competitive but fun feeling while we review questions about things that they've learned. And so Kahoot is another one that's a lot like Quiz. Class Flow. This one is one that we have only recently started to use now that we're closer to having one-to-one with our devices, because it gives us the ability to create all these different types of activities you see here. We can actually push them out individually to their devices. I like to include Class Flow because if your facility has invested in Promethean boards or Active boards, and you've made like flip charts and things like that, Class Flow actually brings those in so you can use those as activities, and it'll turn their device into the whiteboard. So this video is kind of interesting to watch. So the computer one is the teacher, what the teacher would do, or the instructor. And then the iPad represents what your students or participants see. So the way we use it is we use it in our culture and religion class to kind of identify the different types of things that they'll see. So the instructor pulls up this code, they enter the code in on their iPad, and then they're immediately in, and the instructor can send the device to either each individual student or everybody. And then they have the ability to play the activity on their own at their own time, and the instructor can differentiate who does what. And so this was one we didn't really start to utilize till we were in that 1-to-1 ratio, but you can see now he's playing this matching activity, categorizing the differences in poverty and middle class, and each student would be able to do this interactively on their own. So they would each be playing their own version of whatever those activities were. So on the slide before, when I showed all the different options, these were all things we could push out. So this one took a little bit. We only have one instructor right now that's feeling pretty comfortable using it, just because with technology, it's going to fail. This doesn't have to be iPads. It could be used on smartphones, correct? This could be used on any device. So computer, the only one that has to be on the iPads that I've showed so far would be Plickers. And that wouldn't necessarily have to be on the iPads. It could also be on Android devices. It just doesn't work on Windows at this time. But yeah, so you could create any of these types of games, and then you push them out using that class code, and then they can play them on their devices. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about is with technology, I think it gives you a lot of power to get plugged into one another. It gives you the ability to network. We had a whole bunch of different states in this phone call today, and we're able to capitalize and talk about and share ideas with one another and learn from each other. And I think technology gives us that ability with this webinar. It also gives us the ability when we're in a classroom of participants, it gives us the ability to hear everybody's voice. So giving everybody the option to speak. A lot of things we do in corrections are discussion based. And so we found that a lot of the times it was dictated by whoever was the most extrovert and liked to talk would kind of start to take over conversations. So we started to utilize tools that gave us kind of a back channel or an ability for everybody to get their thoughts out there. I actually had the privilege to present at Iactp, and I used a tool called Padlet. And I wanted everybody to be able to use this to see kind of what a back channel looks like. You can all click on that, and I'll actually click on it as well. But the way Padlet is it's a tool that everybody can click into and edit. So we used it as a way I put all the resources in there when I presented, and people added the resources and their thoughts and questions in there onto my Padlet board for it. We've used it in classes like ethics. We talk about different scenarios. We break them into groups. They read scenarios. They come up with what their most ethical answer is, and then they put it into the Padlet board. And so I'm going to click on the Padlet board to show you what it looks like. And so you can see this is my one from Iactp. And we have all these different things that people have talked. We started, it was an icebreaker of what to do in Nashville, and people wrote their things. But anybody could click the plus symbol down here. And could actually add and write things into here. I'll just write hello from North Dakota. And it just immediately posts to there. So if you would scroll down under the column, it would pop up there. The nice thing about Padlet is it can be anonymous. So if they had a question during the ethics class that they weren't sure if that was the right answer, nobody felt like they were being called out or that they said something wrong. But as the presenter, I was able to talk about, you know, what we could do or what would be the better option and things like that. And so Padlet is just a free tool. I think you can make up to 3 boards, and then it goes, you have to pay so much a month. But we just use the free because we don't use it in that many different courses at this time. But it does really give that people who are not as outgoing or are reluctant to talk, it gives them the ability to talk anonymously. If I jump back to my presentation here, YoTeach is another one that does that same basic back channeling concept of Padlet, except it is just a one-way thread, much like our chat window is in this webinar right now. It's just a one-way thread. And so the link that Stuart dropped in there for me is, this was just a back channel I used at a presentation that we were trying to identify what some barriers were that we see in corrections. And so you can see it's just one thread. I usually use superhero names versus my real name. And so you can see people were just identifying different barriers that they are experiencing. And then we talked about what would be some possible solutions. How are some possible ways we could overcome those barriers and things we could do. So it's just a single thread much like our chat window is within our webinar today. But this gives you the ability, and that can be accessed on any device. They jump in, and we don't have to be in an online video call. They just type in that URL, and then they're in there using the thread and able to talk and ask questions as we go, and then it gives me the ability to jump back and address any of those questions. So you've seen a lot of QR codes throughout my presentation. I use QR codes a lot because iPhones and Apple products, and you can also download free QR readers. The camera app within your iPhone will just pick up a QR code and immediately like open it up the website, so you don't have to type in links. It also does contacts, so you can put people's phone contacts directly into your phone by just scanning a QR code. And I just use the website QR stuff. And you can see on the left under the one where it says data type, you can use it to make websites, YouTube videos, all sorts of stuff. And when they scan it with their phones or device, it takes them right to where you want them to be. And it's free, so it's super simple, quick to make. So as you saw, all those QR codes on the slides that I did prior, those would take you, if you were to scan them with your phone, they would have took you right to the link that Stuart was graciously dropping in the chat window for us all to use. One of the last tools I want to show is Remind. And we just started using this one to send out reminders to our staff. So the way Remind works is you set up an account, and they can elect to be in your Remind group either through, they can get it through text messages, they can get it sent to their email, or they can get it sent into the Remind app. There's a Remind app that's on all smartphone devices. And so we use it as a training department to send out reminders. So in this example, I just recorded on my phone the example of, I like to get mine in my text messages because I always check my text messages. So I sent myself a reminder from the Remind app that told me about the sidearm qualification coming up. And so as instructors, we can schedule those, so it can send them out. If I know I want to send it out Monday morning, I can schedule it when I think of it Sunday at 2 in the morning. I can schedule it to go out at 8 a.m. or whatever time I want. And then it goes to everybody who signed up for the Remind in the method that they prefer. So if they've said, I want to get it through a text message, it comes as a text message. If they want to get it as an email, they get an email. It automatically sends it all out there. And the nice thing about Remind is I don't know anyone's number and they don't know my number. It uses that random 631 number that you see that it goes out for sending them and receiving them. So it's a really powerful free tool, and it's worked really well for us because we've found that a lot of our people only check email when they're at work. And so if we have to send out a reminder and they aren't going to be at work before that takes place, we would have to try to look their numbers up, make phone calls, or track them down some way else, some other way. And so it's worked really well. We just started to use it with our smallest facility and then for certain trainings. So that one's Remind. The last thing I want to talk about before I open it up to questions, because I kind of threw a whole bunch of stuff at you in a short amount of time, is social media. You know, social media can get a pretty bad rap when there's a lot of people that could benefit from a digital citizenship class. But I think the power in social media is it gives you the ability to connect with people all over the world, just like we're doing right now in this webinar. But it also gives you the ability to write your own story, to tell your own story. And so the North Dakota Department of Corrections has really started to embrace the social media and has started to put our stories out there because the news isn't always pleasant. It's not always positive. You know, the negative stories get a lot of traction, whereas some of the positive things that we do may not even get reported on. So we use social media as a way to kind of take charge of our story and tell our story. And so Stuart dropped our Twitter and Facebook in there, but you can see like on our social media platforms, we're promoting the rehabilitation things that are taking place within our facilities to try to help the residents that live here succeed when they get out. And so I really want to encourage people to look at it for the positive things. And we've also, when we talk ethics and things like that, we talk about social media being good digital citizens with our incoming staff, to remind them, you know, the things we do online, stay online. This video that we all were in right now is going to be on the website of Iactp. So we want to be good digital citizens in the things that we do, but we also want to take ownership and tell our story. So with that, the last activity is, like I said, I want honest feedback. If I went too fast or things like that, I want to welcome any feedback you have for me. The last tool I'm going to demo is just a Google Forms, because that's a free tool. Stuart's going to drop the link in there for you. And the way it works is it's 3 simple questions. You can just give me your first name. I just want to know what was one of the tools that I showed that hopefully was really powerful and something you could see utilizing, because that'll help me in future presentations to make sure I include that. As well as I want to learn. I want to be a lifelong learner. So the last question, if you have a tool that you're like, this should have been in there, I want you to put it in there so that I can learn about it too. It's really hard doing a presentation like this to know what's going to be the best resources for everyone. So I tried to kind of really diversify the different things that we do and give you a snapshot into it. There's other tools out there. I mean, technology is so fastly changing. We'll never know it all, so we have to continue to be lifelong learners. Technology will fail, as it showed for those of you that weren't able to get into the quiz. You know, everything doesn't always go as planned, but we as instructors and teachers have to be flexible in the things that we do. If you've never seen a Google form, as the results come in, I will just see responses, and I can actually open it up in a spreadsheet and see what everyone wrote in here. So as you're all doing that, again, I want to thank you for dialing in over your lunch hour. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself right now and ask me as many questions as you want. If you scan that QR code with your phone, it's going to put my email and phone number directly into it for you. Otherwise, you can write it down. But we got done a few minutes early because I wanted to be able to ask questions or answer questions, as well as demo any other tools that you'd like me to showcase. So thank you so much. Go ahead and unmute, and we can go on with some questions and answers. Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Glad to see you came back. You were in my Nashville presentation. Does anyone have any questions or things they would like to see me demonstrate a little further in our last 10 minutes or so? Hopefully everyone's internet held up. We've been having issues here in Bismarck with staying connected, but came through in the presentation today. jump in to chat here. All right, if there's no questions, or if you don't want to ask it in front of the group, feel free, email me, contact me, let me know. If not, you get done a couple minutes early. Thank you, everyone.